Hi and welcome back to English with Greg. In today's grammar lesson, we're looking at the difference between the past continuous and the past perfect continuous. If you want to take your English to an advanced level, this is the type of grammar you need to know. So, let's go. This was a question from one of my YouTube viewers. If you have any questions that you want me to answer in a video for you, just let me know in the comments and there's a good chance I will do a video for you too. So what's the difference between the past continuous, for example, it was raining, and the past perfect continuous, for example, it had been raining? Well, the difference is quite simple. We use the past continuous when a long and continuous action in the past was, bam, interrupted by a shorter, different action. For example, I was eating when the phone rang. I was eating. This is a long, continuous action. I was eating when, bam, the phone rang. This is a short action, boom, suddenly the phone starts to make a noise. So we use the past continuous in this situation to describe a long, continuous action in the past that, bam, was interrupted by a short action. Another couple of examples. I was sleeping when you arrived. I was sleeping when you arrived. So again, sleeping is a long, continuous action which was interrupted by a short action, you arrived. I was sleeping when you arrived. Or, I was cooking when I burnt myself. I was cooking, long, continuous action in the past that was interrupted with another short action, ow, I burnt myself. I was cooking when, bam, I burnt myself. Now, the past perfect continuous is similar. It describes a continuous action in the past, but it isn't interrupted by another action. It simply happens before the other action that we talk about in the sentence. In other words, the continuous action in the past stops before the next short action happens. So the best example to use to help you know when to use the past continuous or past perfect continuous is the example that I used earlier of it was raining when I left the house. It was raining when I left the house. This means that we had a continuous action in the past, rain, okay, it was raining, which was interrupted by another action. I left the house. So, when I opened the door, it was raining. However, if I use the past perfect continuous and say it had been raining when I left the house, remember, the past perfect continuous describes a continuous action that happened before the short action, then that means that it was raining. It stopped. And then I left the house. I opened the door and it wasn't raining, but the ground was wet. Why was the ground wet? Because it had been raining. Another couple of examples. I had been walking when the accident happened. I had been walking, this is a continuous action, walking, but then I stopped walking and then an accident happened. I had been walking when the accident happened. Where was I? Did I see the accident? Well, we don't know, but what we do know is that shortly before the accident happened, I was walking. And finally, I had been cooking when my wife came home. So, my wife came home. Was I cooking at that moment? No, I wasn't. But the food was ready for her to eat because I had been cooking. Continuous action in the past which stopped before the next action happened. My wife came home. Now, to be honest, this past perfect continuous is not so common simply because we usually use the past perfect continuous with a period of time, like for 2 hours, for 3 days, for 5 months. And this has a slightly different meaning. So, again, let's look at the example of the rain and me leaving the house. So, remember I said it had been raining when I left the house. This means that the rain stopped and then I left the house. But if I say it had been raining for 2 hours when I left the house, that means that the rain started 2 hours before I left the house, and when I left the house, it was still raining. So the only difference between this and the past continuous is that we are specifying a time. We are specifying that it started at a specific time in the past before the short action happened. A couple of more examples. I had been recording videos for 2 hours when my battery died. I had been recording videos, again, this is a continuous action that happened in the past, for 2 hours when my battery died. So I'm specifying the quantity of time that the continuous action was happening when, bam, the short action happened. Peter and Katie had been going out. Going out means together as a couple. Peter and Katie had been going out for 7 years when they got married. Peter and Katie had been going out, a continuous action in the past, for 7 years when they got married. For 7 years, I'm specifying the amount of time that the continuous action was happening when, bam, short action happened, they got married. Okay, your turn. I want you to write one sentence using either the past continuous or the past perfect continuous or the past perfect continuous with for 2 hours, for 7 years, etc. I want you to write that in the comments, and I want you to do that with all the YouTube videos you watch in English, because when you learn something, the best thing you can do to reinforce that learning is to use it immediately. I look forward to reading your sentences and to help you really understand the difference between the past continuous and the past perfect continuous. Remember to subscribe to my channel to learn more advanced grammar and pronunciation, and check out the description too to see more ways of how you can learn English with me. Thanks for watching. Thumbs up if you liked the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.